You lied today. You probably didn't even notice. A quick excuse, a polite compliment, a reassurance you didn't quite feel. It feels like a bad habit, a flaw, something you should probably work on. But here's the question that actually matters. Why does every single human society on Earth do this starting in early childhood without anyone teaching us how? The obvious assumption is that lying is a moral failure, a corruption of something naturally honest. The research says otherwise, and the real answer starts somewhere you wouldn't expect. With chimpanzees. Primatologist Frans de Waal spent decades documenting deception in chimps and other primates. Chimps hide food from higher-ranking rivals. They fake injuries to get sympathy. One famous case involved a chimp suppressing an alarm call about a predator so a rival wouldn't hear it and would stay in danger. Researchers studying other species have documented similar tricks. Ravens, for instance, will pretend to cache food in one spot while secretly hiding it in another, specifically when they know a rival raven is watching. If birds separated from us by hundreds of millions of years of evolution independently developed deception, this isn't a uniquely human corruption. It's something intelligence itself seems to keep reinventing. And it doesn't stop with birds and primates. Cuttlefish have been documented changing their skin pattern to mimic a female, specifically to sneak past a larger dominant male guarding her, essentially disguising themselves to cheat the system undetected. Certain firefly species take it even further, mimicking the exact flash pattern of a completely different species, not to attract a mate, but to lure that other species in close enough to eat them. That's not confusion. That's a predator running a scripted lie with lights. Once you start looking, deception isn't rare in nature. It's everywhere intelligence and competition overlap. Here's twist one. Lying requires something called theory of mind, the ability to understand that another creature's thoughts are separate from your own, and that you can shape what's inside their head without them knowing. That's a genuinely advanced piece of cognitive machinery. Which raises an uncomfortable question. What if that machinery didn't just happen to include lying as a side effect? What if lying is part of what built it? This is twist 2, and it's the part that should genuinely surprise you. Some evolutionary psychologists, including researchers building on what's sometimes called the Machiavellian Intelligence Hypothesis, argue that social deception, tracking who knows what, predicting reactions, maintaining a consistent false story was one of the major pressures that pushed primate brains toward greater size and complexity in the first place. I have to be honest with you, this is a genuinely debated area, not settled fact. Brain growth almost certainly had multiple drivers, not one single cause. But the idea that outbluffing your rivals took real cognitive horsepower is taken seriously across the field. In other words, you might be this smart partly because your ancestors needed to lie convincingly around the fire. Twist 3 is the one that hits closest to home. Developmental psychologists test this in surprisingly simple ways. In one classic setup, a child is left alone in a room with a toy behind their back, told not to peek, and secretly filmed. Almost all of them peek. The interesting part isn't the peeking, it's what happens next. When asked directly, a large percentage of 2- and 3-year-olds will look an adult in the eye and say, no. They didn't peek, their very first fully intentional lie, right on schedule, the same age across culture after culture. Researchers who studied lying in children have found something parents rarely expect. Kids who start lying earlier often test as having stronger cognitive and social development, not weaker. Catching a toddler in their first lie isn't a discipline problem. It's a milestone, the same category as a first word or a first step. Here's the part that might genuinely change how you feel about the lie you told this morning. Not all lying is selfish, and psychologists actually draw a hard line between the two. Deceptive lying protects you at someone else's expense. Prosocial lying protects someone else, sometimes at a small cost to your own honesty. Telling a friend you love the gift they clearly spent real effort on. Telling someone their haircut looks great when it's merely fine. Researchers have found that societies function better, not worse, with a certain baseline of this kind of polite dishonesty woven through daily life. In small experiments where people were asked to be brutally, radically honest for extended periods, saying exactly what they thought at all times. The result usually wasn't a stronger community. It was damaged relationships, hurt feelings, and people quietly avoiding each other. A little bit of curated dishonesty, it turns out, might be part of what keeps a social species functioning smoothly. So if lying is this old, this wired into how intelligence itself developed, this predictable in how every human brain matures, and in some forms this necessary for holding relationships together, the idea of a fully honest species was never actually on the table. It's not a flaw layered on top of human nature. It's closer to a factory setting. You didn't learn to lie. Lying may have helped teach you how to think, and it might be quietly holding your relationships together right now.